All right, welcome to number three, video number three in this section. So far we've been looking at identifying if videos, if variables relate directly or inversely. So you've been given some functions and you've been able to tell how they relate, and you've also been given some data sets and you've been able to determine how they relate. Well, now what we're going to do is you're going to be told how the variables relate, and you're going to have to determine some information and an equation about how the variables relate. So let's look at this first problem. We're told that the variables x and y vary inversely. Let's make this pen a little bigger. We're told that they vary inversely. So let's first write that down. First thing we know is that x and y have an inverse variation, which means y is equal to a over x. That's an inverse variation. And we know that when x equals 3, y equals 4. So we know that this is a point on our function. We want to write an equation that relates x and y. So we have our equation right here. The only thing we're missing is our a value. So all we need to know, because we only have one unknown, we can use one point or one data set in order to find this unknown. So all we do is we take our x and y values, so 4 for y and then 3 for x, and we plug them in. Now here we just solve for a, so we multiply both sides by 3, and we get 12 equals a. So our first part, write an equation that relates x and y, we get y equals 12 over x. And that's the first part of our solution right here. So this is our equation that relates x and y. They vary inversely, and our equation is y equals 12 over x. Then we need to find y when x equals negative 2. So if we have x equals negative 2 right here, in order to find y, all we do is we take our equation, which is 12 over x, and we just substitute. We're going to plug in negative 2 for x, and we're going to end up with y equals negative 6. 12 divided by negative 2 is just negative 6. So what we get here is, again, you first have to write your standard form of your equation. So whether it's direct variation or inverse, that's going to determine what equation you write down. Then you take the point that you're given and use those values to solve for a, which is your unknown, and then just take that, plug it back in your standard form, and you have your equation. And then to find y values, when x has a specific value, you just plug that in for x. Very simple and straightforward. So I'm going to give you some problems to do, and you can come back here and you can always pause this or rewatch it to look at it. Okay, so let's go ahead and look over at the problems that I'm going to have you do. So the ones I want you to do, you are actually going to be doing all three of these, 6, 7, and 8. Now, there will be 3 different text boxes that come up that have you write your equations in them. So make sure you write each one separately. So each equation goes in its own text box. So number 6 will pop up first, then number 7, then from number 8. So remember your instructions. You're told that x and y vary inversely, and you're going to use the given points, which are different for each problem, to write an equation relating x and y. Then for each of these, for each equation, I want you to find y when x equals 2.